All right. Thanks again, everyone, for joining our Werewolf Technical Steering Committee meeting. I think I've got it dated correctly this time for the 4th of March, 2026. Rather light agenda again this time, mostly I think because things are blocked up on me getting this TLS pull request from Christian reviewed because it's expanding for server kind of refactoring that I think people are going to be glad about, but I'll talk about that. But on our agenda for today is Rose wanted to talk about a perk buff. We'll talk about what's going on in the 466 release. I asked Jason if he could talk a little bit about, or he had some questions about the Golang support matrix that we want to retain within Werewolf. And I know we've discussed that before, but I feel like I've just failed to write it down properly. And so I want to figure out, you know, I'll let Jason lead that discussion and we'll write down and take notes. And then Josh Burks from ASU has joined us and says that he's got some work that he's doing in the API that he'd like to bring up for the group. So I've got that on the agenda here. Anything else that we should add before we get started? All right. Rose, I'll throw it to you.
Thanks. So for the ISC, we are doing a kind of joint BOF with OpenHPC, just like we did or we at least have requested that we have submitted. Chris Simmons has submitted that, which is great. That conference is June 22nd to the 26th. I believe that you're going to that, Jonathan, right?
I don't have the travel booked yet, but that's the plan. Certainly if the BOF is accepted, I expect I would go to that.
Yes, absolutely. So that is awesome, and we can kind of put that on the calendar. Werewolf is out there in the wild. And then we were talking also about doing a similar type of thing at Perk 26. That's at the end of July there. We were also talking about doing a solo one. So it's a little bit different, just like our experience at SC last year. It was awesome. It was really great to be there with Confluent and Open Chamois and Werewolf and kind of having all three be able to talk about what they do and how they do it. And it felt kind of short though, honestly. So kind of in that vein, and then also obviously wanting to have like a proper BOF where it's like all the werewolf people kind of coming together to be in person and talk about stuff, especially at Perk. We were thinking that we would do a solo one and the one with Open HPC. So I reached out to Chris today just to see where he is at with that, just so that you guys know submissions are due on the 23rd of March. I have drafted a proposal for the werewolf solo BOF. I put that in the TSC whatever channel inside of Werewolf. If anyone else wants to look at it and have some thoughts and opinions, let me know, or I can, throw it in here. I can open it up right now. I don't know exactly what you guys want to do. I think the proposal's okay, but having your opinions would be great. There were some directions that the other thing, which is really interesting, if you want to just scroll all the way down to the bottom, Jonathan, some of the directions, I don't know if I missed this last year, if it's hopefully not, that it's just new this year, is that all BOF submissions require a debrief that we have to, put onto this Zendo platform. So I just want to make sure that is noted and that we do that and that we do that before August 31st so that it can be good citizens of our space. It doesn't
I
seem,
don't remember hearing that before, but it seems like a good thing.
yes, I agree. I agree. It doesn't, I don't think we missed it, but yeah, they definitely. So I just wanted to add that into the submission. We can obviously delete that and not enter it, but yeah. So my concern though, and I brought this up with Timothy, and he was such a great suggestion. Because I know that at SC, if you want to have two different BOFs happening at the same time on kind of the same subject, that's not really a thing because they have them all at the same time. And I didn't know if Perk did that as well. So he was like, "Hey, go look at the schedule from last year and see how they did it." Um, I did not have time in the last couple hours to do that, but that was a great suggestion.
Yeah. I think it's not as much of a problem with that at Perk as it is with SC, but it's a good suggestion for sure.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I guess I can look at it and make a decision, but maybe that would be kind of like in the considerations or somewhere in the submission, say like, hey, if it conflicts, do we have a, if they both get accepted, do we have a preference?
If they, you mean if like an open HPC and a werewolf one were both accepted, I don't know a preference. We would
And they
want to
were at the
support
same
both of
time.
them. Oh, if
Yeah.
they
Well,
were, we should
yeah.
just ask them to not do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they would honor the conflict, I'm pretty sure.
Cool. Okay. That was my only kind of concern.
I guess that's one way to guarantee that won't be on the same time as have presenters in both.
Yeah. Um,
Okay. So it's up to you guys if you want to take a moment now to go over the proposal, or if you just kind of want to take it on your own time and give me some suggestions if you have them.
yeah, I say let's do that asynchronously.
Okay.
And I put a link to it here.
Great.
As Rose said, it's in the TSC channel also. But yeah, great.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Any other questions for Rose or comments or feedback on the possibility of a perk buff for Werewolf? All right. Thanks for putting that together, Rose. So, I don't have this open, but the 4.6 release is in nominally the same, sorry, 4.6.6 release is in nominally the same state it was in our last meeting. But I am continuing to work on this TLS pull request, not as much as I would like to have, but I've been working on it the last couple days. And I do have it booting, so I'm able to boot with TLS on and TLS off. All of that is still working now. Um, I'll show here if you can.
So what did you have to change?
There were some of it was I just mean it's still working after I have made some changes. That were like uh opinionated changes, I'll say. I think things about
That's okay.
configuration variables and stuff like that. There were a couple places where it was broken. I think it was
Okay.
broken for like the variables weren't being populated properly for iPixie, and they were for Grub or
Yeah.
something like that. Some things like that. But where my attention is right now is, and we discussed this in the last meeting, about fixing largely this function now, what was
Yeah.
broken out into a separate function,
Oh, that's
so that
this function is a nightmare. I know it.
but it's better now because so
Oh,
now
that
each of
that's
these
so nice. So I always hope to find some time, or if I want to curse someone, that he has to do that.
so it used to be that all of these different URL routes dispatched into the same function, and then that function had a big if clause at the beginning that determined what it was doing based on where the route came from. Now that's broken out into different handlers, and what I'm working on right now. So this is something, Christian, that was missed. So you
Yeah.
had like the runtime route is where you were turning that off on the HTTP side. So if you were the HTTP server, you didn't have
Yeah.
the overlay runtime
Yeah.
enabled, and if you weren't, then you did. Sorry, if you were like the TLS encumbered one, then you were. But
Yeah.
no one was actually using this route. Everyone was using this route with a question mark stage equals runtime. So now the handle provision handler, it still does that thing. It still does the if branching and picks a thing, and but it calls into the correct one of these handlers, and now
Okay.
it's the handle runtime overlay that detects whether it should be responding or not. So it checks the configuration to see if TLS is enabled, and if TLS is enabled, whether you're coming in on a TLS path, and if not, then it doesn't respond. So that's working right now. Something that I'm working on right now is all of the grub stuff is in here, and since I'm in here, I'm looking at whether I can break this out into like a slash grub that makes it a little bit clearer what's going on there. But this is coming along pretty well. Um, and as long as it still works and I'm done here in the next day or two, the last thing that I intend to add in here by request from last week is a route for just an arbitrary file server that people have been asking for. So that'll be pretty easy. But yeah, I'll show the to-do on this. Here. Oh, what's going on? Oh, it is here. Okay, cool. Oh, no, that's just this. Here we go.
So arbitrary files, that would be a HTTPS serving, right? Because you could potentially fool the same things that are in runtime overlays.
Um, yeah, I think, yeah, well, maybe if you have TLS turned on, then it would only serve it on uh, a TLS protected thing. I think that makes sense. But this is where I am with my to-do list on this. I'm working on deprecating some URL paths. I'm not getting rid of them, but trying to make it clear which ones are being used and which ones aren't, and identify those. And then just once we get past about here, it's just documentation and things. Oh, and this files one. So that's where I am. Uh, any questions on that one? And if not, then we'll move on to this other bug that's coming in. Okay. Um, so the other thing I wanted to bring up, I don't think we have a pull request for it yet, but an issue was being discussed. Hey, it's the top one about the file template not working, or the file template function not working properly if there's no new line behind it. Um, and I think we should try and fix this for this release. I have not looked at it
Mm,
myself yet, but
it's the main problem here. It's really how this is all handled and how we want to behave. So the thing is, the template is evaluated and then the buffer is read. And as I wrote, I think it's in the ticket, I also replied it in the ticket, then it's going line by line. And if it finds the file and the file, this magic file comment in the line, then it says, okay, this is a new file. So if there are several files in one line, only one, it will find only the first. So I tricked it a bit alone. So my approach was quite simple to just write some test cases, which will definitely fail, and then let a AI fix the code. That
yeah,
sometimes this is really
that's a good
working
plan.
out great.
So
Because if you say, okay, it tested, because I know this is kind of, it came up with a regex. So it with a regex, which then goes through the whole buffer and not
mhm.
just the
Not just line by
um,
line.
just say, yeah, just not a
Yeah,
single line. And then if you do the regex right, then I could have had the idea myself, but I didn't have it. Then you also get the things which are not the file magic, and
right.
then put that to files. I think that should work out.
I
But
thought
then
you had a
it's
pull request here where you
still,
have those tests in it. Are they not? Is it
I
not a pull
didn't
request?
push it. I think I didn't
Oh,
make it
okay.
onto it yet
Okay.
because I'm not. The thing is, I'm not pretty sure why. So if this is this with the thing is, I'm not pretty sure what this minus sign is always doing. If you have it before the also when in the opening square brackets or in the closing square brackets. I know it's one. It's just I think it's a bit different, but it's
It's surprising, or the results of it end up being
right.
surprising. But yeah, so the behavior is if you write like oh, I've if you write like this, then
Yeah.
everything to the all the white space to the left of it is removed. And if you write this, then all the white
Yes.
space to the right is removed. And so for people that have not been following this issue, the if you write in a Werewolf template like file, then what Werewolf is meant to do is everything after this gets written to the file of that name rather than the file that the template name is. But what's actually happening is that this is like the function, the file function emits. I think you said it's a comment, right, Christian? It's something like this.
No, it's
Yeah,
not a comment.
it's not a comment.
It's a curly brackets. It
Oh,
looks like a
it's like
template.
this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, then file, columns, name, then this will go to a new file.
The point is it emits this text into the generated template and
Yeah.
then or sorry the result of the template and then Werewolf separately processes that output and splits it up by file. But if you have chompers on it, then it like munges with the previous file and it isn't noticed. Or sorry, previous line. So there's parsing work to be done there. Um, but yeah,
I,
if
Yeah.
I think
I
Christian, you're, oh yeah,
I'm trying
Jeremy.
to figure out is it actually I'm trying to figure is it actually a bug or is it I mean,
At the
this is
moment,
always
it's a
one of
bug.
the okay, this is always one of those weird things you have to really look at
Yeah, yeah, it's a
with
bug, but I
templates.
don't know what the right solution is. That's
Yeah.
the point. I know that the behavior we right now have it's definitely a bug, but I don't know how it should
Okay.
look correctly.
I'm
Yeah,
fine assigning this over to Christian. I just picked it up because you'd mentioned that we really wanted to get it into the release, but I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. So
Yeah.
yeah. I think Christian, if you're able to push your broken test cases, that would be a good first step on this. But
Yeah,
I,
that's the point. I don't know when and how the white spaces you can define it. You can push them separately if you want. It's kind of I don't know with what should happen if it's file. If there are two file comments, then there should be nothing in it. Yeah, it's parseful. It's definitely it's just complicated. And how a new line then is parsed and not. That's the
yes. Yeah, so that's a fair question. So the goal from this was originally the person who opened this is trying to create empty files. And so that maybe it makes sense then that if we do have a file declaration and no text, that it would create an empty file. Right now, there's nothing that's doing that. It would just skip to the next one, even if it was working.
yeah.
But it may be correct that you should have to emit something, even if it's
No,
a new
yeah,
line.
I think it's right to have like touch empty files because that's
Yeah.
used in many
Yeah.
Linux things that you just set a marker file somewhere.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with empty files. I just find working with working with templates, it's that people forget that if you put a carriage return in, you get a carriage return out. I mean, it's not like C where it's coding. So people just normally for readability will put these on different lines, even though, without that minus sign, you're going to
Yeah.
get a carriage return.
Yep.
And I didn't know if it's actually, that's why I was asking, is this actually a bug or is it just a usability issue?
So
Because
there is a real bug because
okay,
if you put the chompers on this file to try and
yeah,
make it so that your file has no content, then the sentinel that says create a file at all gets eaten and isn't respected by Werewolf. So it's not
okay.
just someone doing the template wrong. It's actually a bug in how we're finding this sentinel
it
and
sounds like we're
processing it.
talking about two different issues, though. One is fixing this bug, and the second is what is the canonical way of supporting empty
Yeah, but
files inside of our
we have
template?
to know how the canonical way is to fix the bug.
Right. Because I'm looking at this
We have to
range right
decide what
now
it is.
Yeah, that's
as
my
written.
point.
Yeah.
Make it explicit instead of implicit,
Right.
perhaps.
Right.
Sorry,
As
Jeremy, I didn't mean to talk over you.
oh no, no, I was trying to say because as I was looking at it right now, the way that it was written is it it should be every time it gets a file that's empty, and you're running a whole range of files, but every time there's a file that's empty, it's going to spit out a blank line. And that's the way it's currently written. And that's not what they want, or is that what they want?
So
Is
they want, oh, what is going on?
Yeah, is
They
empty
want
file
this.
genuinely truly an empty file?
Yeah.
They want this to emit an empty file because it's
In
chomping
other
on the
words,
left and on the
nothing.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
They want this to make a file called my file that is empty.
Okay. If my file is, well, sorry, if my file is empty, then that should spit out nothing. No new line, no empty space.
Right, which it does
Okay.
because you're chomping on both sides.
Yeah. Okay.
This, so I understand what they're saying, what they're after. My concern would be is are we are we basically supporting a feature in the template that's going to be hard to understand or hard to discover?
No, no,
Uh,
because I think it's Tobias Ribitzer who discovered it. He discovered it, and it's kind of the behavior you expect.
No,
And he,
sorry, what I was asking is for the ability to get an empty file, is supporting this via a very, very specific construct of the template the right
no,
answer?
no, because we did, as I said, in Linux, we often have Markov files which are empty, and especially this. Um,
I think Jason's more asking, should we support the creation of empty files through a different mechanism
Yes.
than
Should there
this
be
thing?
something like null file or something like that in the templates?
But
No,
I
no,
I think
no.
this is clean enough. Like this would be this is an empty file and this is a file with a new line, and then this is uh that makes a file with some content in it, and those I think those three permute pretty well. And then you can do what's the range here? Um, this here should make a range of empty files.
This is my kind of first time looking at this issue, but looking at it, it looks like their concern is with the chomper on the range function, not on the file function. Or if it's on the
It ends up
range, it truncates. Is it
it ends up
effectively the
being the
same thing?
same. Yeah, because ultimately the problem is that you're getting the content from the next line to the right of the file sentinel, which breaks
I
the
see.
regex that's finding it.
Well, hold on a second.
It's always regex.
Isn't there supposed to be a minus sign after the range? Otherwise, you're going to get a carriage return after the range.
No, because it's this here. The
What?
and it's anything here would be chomped by the starting on this file here.
Yeah.
I'll just clarify though. So I think that that covers the use cases and certainly the ones that are breaking. Agree, disagree? Any, okay.
I would just double test that because on the most recent comment on there, he does talk about like a SSH key that's a single line file, how it's breaking that even though it's not an empty file. And I know
yeah,
I've run into some weird
I know that this
similarities.
is broken. But this is, I think, due to the fact that I had to add a new line so that I get all lines when parsing the template. This could be related to that.
I think
Yeah, I
mostly
remember.
I'm thinking that if we fix these, we will fix that also, because it's all going to come down to just white space chomping, breaking the fact that we're looking at it line by line rather than across the whole buffer. All right. That's what I have on the agenda for 466. Any other issues or bugs that someone would like to raise towards that? There are, of course, more, but I think that they're not as big. All right. Jason, I'll pass to you. Tell us about Golang.
All right. Mind if I steal the
Yeah.
screen? All right. So the how this conversation started is we've got a few security issues in the 4.6.6 release that we want to fix. And when I attempted to resolve those, they're all dependency upgrades. They all required moving to, I think, one Go version 1.25. Um, I started looking around, and Jonathan warned me that, hey, I think we're pinned to 1.22, which is what we are. If you look at the Go mod, it pins us to 1.22 right now. But when I started looking at the version policy for Golang, 1.22 is end of life. So is 2.3, 2.4, 2.5 and 2.6, 1.25 and 1.26 are the only two supported releases right now. So that kind of naturally led me into what's keeping us on 1.22. And it's, from what I understand, it's basically what the operating system support that we tend to package and deliver with Warewulf. So looking at the build system right now, we tend to test across these four operating systems, three versions of Rocky, one version of SUSE. And for most of these, 1.25 is already available. Rocky 8, I need to manually verify because I think it's available if you use the right package install mechanism in Rocky 8 / Red Hat 8. But I need to verify that manually to see if we can actually get a hold of 1.2.5. All of that kind of to say that it's a little unclear to me what our established version policy is for Go. My preference would be that we stick with, obviously we need to stick with the versions that are supported by the operating systems that we leverage or we support. My preference would be to stick with a version of Go that has official support from the Golang org, right? So right now the repository is sitting in kind of this weird state where we don't have a formal version of, like, this is our policy on our Golang version. We just kind of have an implicit policy based on what's in our GoMod file and what's checked into the test matrix that we run against. I'd like to make that a little bit more explicit so that we can say this is our versioning policy for trying to keep up to date with Golang. Before I took a stab at that, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts about, am I missing something here? Obviously, Open Euler is not represented here. We're already shipping a version of Go beyond what they currently support, so I'm not sure what the answer is going to be in that space. Open Euler being part of what OpenHPC ships. So, one, am I missing something here in terms of how we've previously been determining
I
which
think
version of
Debian is
Go?
missing now.
What's that?
Was
Debian. At least we should know what if we break something there.
It's a good question. Is Debian officially supported
only not
operating?
because we don't have the packages yet. So that's why it's not in the build system. But we've been trying to go that way. The last thing we discussed, the last decision we had was that as long as we could build with stable, or sorry, not stable, as long as we could build with unstable, we were fine. And unstable is always going to have
Yeah.
the latest Golang in there. So I'm not too worried about that. Um, Timothy, I feel like I asked this last time and then I wasn't clear on the answer. I think that OpenHPC is building the OpenEuler packages with a Golang that isn't from OpenEuler, like just downloading Golang and building. And that's how they got across or got around the problem of the Golang being too old. Is that something that you can verify or that you can help me verify or show me how to find that out?
That's something I could look into. I don't currently build against Open Euler because I haven't set up my test infrastructure for it yet.
Would
And
Adrian be
then,
the right person to ping for that? If so, I can, rather than making you kind of carry the message, I could just go ask him. But who is the right person to ask?
yeah, he probably would know more. You can also dig into the the build system. That's I would suggest using a LLM to help understand where things
Yeah.
happen. I had good success with that.
And
But if you take a look at, sorry, what?
is that just the OpenHPC repo, or is there
Yeah,
like a sub repo for it?
there's a testing repo, but that's just for testing. It's not for, well, no, it may have the CI stuff, but I'm pretty sure it's in the OpenHPC repo.
So
I
like
can get,
OpenHPC/OHPC. Okay.
yeah, I can get you some key files to trigger the LLM to figure out where to start, so it doesn't eat up all your context. I'm looking for that right now. Yeah, and there's a 2403 LTS Service Pack 3 is the one I think we build against. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's in the PDF that's generated too.
So if you take a look at the OpenHPC repository, there is also a testing, an infrastructure repo, and that's where all the testing stuff in there is. And it will have like the Ansible scripts to handle the downloading. And so you'll probably see the hard-coded OS stuff in there as well.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll probably take a quick swing at it as well.
So, Jason, it sounded like you had maybe a draft or maybe just thoughts for a draft of a policy that you wanted to try and canonize.
Yeah, that's my goal with this actually is to get I've got a kind of a rough draft version of a policy that's not ready to be shared out, but that's my goal is to have a policy doc checked into the repo that says this is how we handle kind of chasing Golang versions and managing dependencies across operating systems and stuff so that we can kind of put this question to bed and be like, well, there's the doc that says what we do about Go versions and operating system versions and that kind of stuff.
I think that's the right way to handle it, and whether it's like an exist like a just a markdown file in the root of the repository, and it could be in the README or the developer dot. There's a couple MDs already in there
Yeah.
that might be appropriate. And then if there's more discussion or disagreement that needs to be had, it'll be easier to have it as specific things with that policy. So I
Okay.
say go ahead and
Yeah.
draft it. And
I'll get a draft out in a pull request and we can debate it there.
cool.
All right.
Um, but yeah, the main thing is just not breaking OpenHPC's ability to build Warewulf
Right.
for the operating systems that they're deploying. And so if we can confirm that they're building with an out of distro Golang, that unshackles our hands on this. Because, yeah, we've got a pretty big backlog of Dependabot stuff right now that GitHub wants to shout at us about that we're only not seeing because it only shows you 5 things at a time. And so if all 5 of those are things that we're deferring because they're behind Golang upgrades,
Yeah.
then we're not seeing any of them.
So the three I attempted to fix, one of them wanted to go to 1.2.3, I think, and the other were 1.2.5s, Go versions that they wanted to bump us to.
1.23 and 1.25, you mean?
Yeah.
Not 2. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sorry. 1.2.3 and 1.2.5.
So one way to find out would be just to push it, just clone the repo and push it, change the versions in the spec file and push it to your repo with the CI stuff installed, and it'll go and try to build them all.
Oh, in the OpenHPC repo?
Yeah, you can just enable the CI for your own repo and you can watch it blow up.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Fork it into your own GitHub and then try
Yes.
and push it in there and let the CI run.
Yep, that's what I do at times.
Okay.
Cool. That's all I had for this, as long as there's no other questions.
Thanks, Jason.
Yep.
And rather than share and then unshare, Josh, that leaves us to you. Tell us about the API work that you've been doing.
All right, yeah. So over the weekend, I was playing around quite a bit with the API, and I've noticed that you cannot unset profiles or overlays from a node. If you try to set it to the undefined special flag, it tries to check if you have an overlay called undefined, and then it uses that. So that's a really simple thing to fix. If I could share screen, that actually might be easier
Yeah.
because then I can just pull up VS Code here with a couple of these changes. So those were rather simple things. Just check if, of course, I'm not going to be able to find it while I'm screen sharing. Yeah, that's going to be too hard to find while I'm screen sharing. But I got that commit in to a branch, and then was also considering a /version API endpoint, just returns the Werewolf version the same way like
Yeah.
WWCTL version does. Seems like a simple enough thing. It uses the exact same logic as most of this does. And then I also realized if you use the static DHCP template, which I do because I don't want to have just my random IP addresses being signed out to anything. So I want the node to use its exact same production IP while it's booting. So if you add a node from the API, you also have to reconfigure DHCP in order to get that node into your DHCP template. So you would have to hit some sort of configure DHCP endpoint to be able to do that entire thing from the API. So I started working on that. And then, well, if you have the DHCP one, why not have the TFTP one and the NFS one and the host file one? Because why not? And if you're already getting config and you could return the entire config, which is just, /etc/werewolf, werewolf.conf, just return all that in JSON format. And then also, if you can get it, should you be able to update it from the API? And that's the part where I started questioning, like, wait a second, am I going too far with any of this? Is there any safety concerns with updating the API or the entire config?
So my feeling is that I would probably stop short of allowing the API to change werewolf.conf. Not necessarily for safety reasons, but just stability reasons, that it's not expecting it to change out from under it, and then you would need to restart the API server and the werewolf server. And that so far we don't have anything that changes werewolf.conf. You always change that by hand.
That's kind of what I was starting to realize. Like, wait a second, there's no command line way to do that unless it's nodes.conf. So that's actually a huge relief because trying to get test cases for this was proving to be a big pain.
I am
So
surprised about the inability to unset profiles. I would think you should just be able to set the profile to an empty list or to the list, the new list that you want it to be.
yes, and you can do that. But if you look at the nodes.conf, you still have a profiles block with just nothing in it. It's just like an empty string, which, the node is correct. It doesn't have that profile anymore, but you also have this useless block. And let's see if I could actually pull up code on the fly. Yeah, here we go. Okay, it's in the node.conf. So yeah, if you set it to undef, it will like remove the string, but or if you set it to empty, it'll remove the string. But if you set it to undef, it'll actually remove the block. And I apologize for not being more prepared with like actual use cases here in front of me today. I could put those all into the PR if you'd like.
Yeah, it'll
But
probably
yeah, I
just
mean,
be
it's a
easiest to
simple
see it in
just
a PR.
if undef wrappers around the node functions.
I would want to see it because um I don't really like the undef sentinel, but capability trumps aesthetics. Uh, but I would want to see like what the use case is that was broken, and how how you're fixing it is relatively obvious, but I might have an opinion about a
Yeah,
different way to
yeah,
express it.
absolutely. Because yeah, I've noticed this undef thing is kind of everywhere in the documentation. I think it's undef in some places, unset in other places. I think it means the same thing. I haven't dug too
It
far into
should mean the
that.
same thing, but it's been broken in some places also. The one that we're tracking, we have a separate issue for it, and partway PR where you can't say undef on an IP address or netmask because it's not a valid IP address or netmask, and so the CLI blows up.
That's
Um,
basically what I was running into here. Is undef isn't a real profile, so you have to
yeah.
handle that case specially. So yeah, I mean, if there's
So
there's a broader desire to fix undef in general, yeah, that'd be
I say get the
related
PR
to
in
the issue
there,
I'm seeing.
and it should be we should be able to triage that with
Okay,
code.
perfect. I'll get actual like screenshots and curl statements in there. I rebooted my computer this morning and lost the window that had all of that open. And then the other thing is I was browsing around for related issues, and I found this older pull request for. I guess I can't share my Chrome window. Oh, yes, I can. There we go. For adding API power control. This is probably
Yeah.
about 8 or 9 months old now, and I was just wondering if there was any appetite of actually still getting this merged.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to test, right? So that's the main
That's
thing.
true. That's true with VMs
Uh,
especially.
but yeah, definitely it would be good to get it merged. It's just the the thrust of work at CIQ that was getting this in, we just stripped that out of the initial release, and so it has languished as a result. But it's also on our internal roadmap of, hey, it would be good to go finish that.
Okay.
So if you've got an environment, especially if you like wanted to pair work on something, we definitely put resources into working on it with you, or if you're willing to test it out and say, yes, this works, I can tell, because I have
Yeah.
actual hardware that I can turn on and off with it.
Yeah. No, I've got about 200 nodes in an environment that's still being built up right now, where we can absolutely power those things as much as we want.
Oh,
Awesome.
cool. For what it's worth, I think the Vagrant box testing stuff that was checked in has some support for like fake power control on nodes.
Yes.
It's not as good as the real thing, obviously, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
we're
PR predates us having any of
yeah,
that. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
saw
because I
that.
noticed there was changes in there too about deleting files from an overlay, which sounds useful, but it's just not documented in the PR description.
Mm.
I might pull that down, see if I can rebase it, and see what I can do with it.
Sounds great. Yeah, thanks. And all of the other config stuff and the other API stuff that you're doing looks totally great. Just uh, stopping short of writing werewolf.conf, everything else seems super useful. So thanks
Yeah,
for working
good,
on it.
because that's the one I could not write tests for reliably.
Awesome.
So
All right.
appreciate you
Well,
guys sharing that.
absolutely. That's the end of our agenda. Anything else we need to discuss before we go?
Just one question here. Does anyone know here Cosmic Labs, the company? They are big on open shaming.
Cosmic what? Or
Cosmic Labs.
Cosmic Labs?
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah.
Unfamiliar. All right.
I see forward for your new TLS and fixed handlers. The
I'm
fixed
looking forward
handlers
to
are
getting
so
it to
great.
you.
I just have to appreciate it because this is so. I always when I fixed something in there, I always thought, okay, if I have some time, I we
One
need a new
day.
handler there.
Yeah, yeah. One day, and this is that
One
day. It'll
day
be
I will
good.
write a big new handler, and it will be the
I
best
really
handler
think
ever.
that code and the template generation code are like the last bad parts of the code. And so,
Not a template generation. I fixed
no,
so
I mean
much in the
like
template generation.
because of how it's doing, like where we're getting the bug with the file handling, right? Like that kind of thing. It's just black magic in
Yeah,
there.
no, that's not a part of the templating I don't like. Because there's no other solution for that. It's an ugly solution, I know it. Because you could set variables from the template, but then you still have to know a marker
Mm,
where to split the files.
yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
main problem here. There is no way if you have a better idea, please come with it. But I don't have it. I
I'll,
don't
I'll
see it
ask.
right now.
I'll ask Claude.
Yeah.
Let's see. But
No, please
I
not.
only bring that up to say like we're cleaning up these like two places, and when I had mentioned to Jason he might look into that file writing bug, like beware, it's like the last dark corner, but it's continuing to get
No,
good.
there are the dark corners. The handling of how we download the containers. That's also ugly part.
Hmm. I haven't looked at that in a little while,
You,
so maybe
you
it's even
can do
darker.
that, and what's also critical a bit is the how we then go into containers and leave
Okay.
from go into
That's
the
already a little bit better. We
that's
did
a
some
little
work
bit
there.
better. But you're right. Not the templating itself, but the main problem is you have so many functions so you call one function which and then it calls another function, it calls another
Yeah.
function, and then finally after you pass through 4 or 5 functions which just add 1 or 2 variables, then you are generating a template instead of calling one template generation. That's the bad part here. So you are
Okay.
calling build all overlays and not kind of the thing you should do is kind of
Right. Yeah, yeah. Iterate over it and do it one at a time. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
All
exactly.
right.
Okay.
Well, thanks everyone for your time and your commitment to the project. And let me check the calendar real quick to confirm. The next one is, in fact, in 2 weeks on the 18th. So we'll look forward to
Okay.
seeing you then.
See you. Bye.
See y'all.